let me ask you this: would you buy the evolution of the ship more readily if the Klingon bird of prey from Star Trek 3 was in fact a Romulan ship as originally intended? Like if that was actually, when Sulu turned around, if he said Romulan bird of prey, sir, she's arming torpedoes, and Krug was a Romulan instead of a Klingon, that was established as a canonical Romulan ship now. And then it moved from that to the Derridex. Do you think that works better? I think it does.
I think it does too.
Because I could see that Romulan bird of prey from Star Trek 3 would make sense to the Romulans that bought Klingon tech and started to incorporate it into their designs, and that's why it has the neck and the bulb in front. And then that would also further go to why the Derridex has that neck bulb in front kind of look to it. In that the Derridex actually looks like it could be an evolution of the from the Star Trek 3 bird of prey, a much larger ship.
Which is funny because Andrew Probert didn't think that way. That's completely... not what the design was. So you have to be putting stuff in there that wasn't intended. But I mean,
that's what it looks like.
This going to the Klingon bird of prey has no connection at all. I mean, except the feathering pattern. But I mean, that's war paint. Lots of other things are war paint too. I mean, look at the Vorcha and Negva. They've got red, plates as well. I mean, yes, it's obviously a bit weird, but it's not the end all be all. We could paint anything on anything. So this to that makes no sense at all. That then to... Again, you could design a Klingon bird of prey to look Romulan with, only 25% different, maybe 50. Wouldn't take much. You'd have to round off the shapes, change the engine. It would take some changes, but you could do it quite effectively because it's still green. It's still, maybe put the wings up. I mean, there's things you could do. To Derridex, though, again, scout ship, low-end scout ship.
Yeah, 12 people,
ultra high-end warship. I mean, ships don't look similar of different classes. Why would they?
Right,
not every fighter looks. I mean, you can't compare because all of our modern military is, we tend to go along certain lines. I guess a machine gun to a tank. I mean, there's not many comparisons. Does a machine gun like a tank?
Well, except that you're going from one class of thing. Like, for example, there's a difference between a machine gun and a tank have different functions. But if you look at a tank from World War II compared to a tank today, you can see the evolution.
But that's a direct evolution of this is a tank of the same style, with the same weaponry, of the same Earth evolution, of the same ground evolution.
Saying too that there's different classes of tanks as well.
Right, there's hundreds of tanks.
Okay, a better equivalent would be an anti-missile tank versus a land tank. They look very different, except the ground bit, because that's how they travel on the ground. So therefore, all ships, they both have engines, nacelles, but everything in the middle is different. So you can't compare an anti-aircraft to an anti-person because they have completely different functions. They're still a tank, but and again, they get so much radical when it has 100 years and space, and also trying to push forward. But I guess the double question is and now obviously with Discovery it's even harder. But if they were to I think they should remaster TOS, do it again. Really update it properly. Would you guys be interested in seeing maybe not that first version, but every later appearance of this class be green and have those more tweaks that would bring it more in line. So this does still become the unique first strike attack craft, and everything else becomes a more functional version. What do you think, Stuart?
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that, seeing them in the Enterprise incident and stuff being different color because as an advancement, and that one, even in the remastered, that one is not actually white. It's more like a silver gray color.
Well, they changed the design as well. I mean, it's not the same design. It has got different shapes.
It's the proportions are different. So I would have really no issues with that as long as the original one in Balance of Terror looked similar to that one, and then everything we saw afterwards, again, same kind of shapes and design, but different colors, different enhancements. I'd be fine with that, to be fair.
So a half retcon you'd be happy with?
Yeah. I think one thing you could do that would be interesting would be the Balance of Terrorship to make it look like it's a prototype ship, that it doesn't look quite so finished.
And clean.
Right. So you take away the clean lines and you put on obvious hull plating, patchwork stuff, because this is a prototype ship. They've had to make adjustments and they're testing their weapons platform.
Yeah, I would be totally down for that.
And I would even go so far as to make that plasma launcher at the front much more pronounced.
Yeah.
Because, and then of course when you see the same class of ship, if you will, from Deadly Years and the Enterprise incident, you tone back that plasma launcher because, well, the Romulans abandoned that weapon project because they figured that, well, the Federation can easily counter it by firing their phasers at the plasma bolt. They figured that out right off the bat, and they can almost outrun it because the Federation has awesome warp drive. So that's, I think, a way that you could, like, within canon, explain away some of this stuff. Because it does seem kind of stupid that the Romulans have a weapon that is devastating, and then they're like, wow, we took out 3 Earth outposts and almost their flagship with 1 experimental ship. Let's ditch that and go with something with much less weapons. How does that make any sense? I mean, and the Romulans are not dummies, so I don't know. What's your guys' take on why did the Romulans ditch the most powerful weapon we ever saw in Trek?
So we don't see it in TNG, we don't see it in Enterprise. There's no sense they ever kept the plasma torpedo as a concept.
Unless it's includes Starfleet battles, which no one does. But anyway,
which even if you do, they still
abandon it. I have an explanation for it. They don't, though, because it's the standard plasma torpedo. It could be that the Romulans didn't actually get a whole understanding of exactly what their ship had accomplished, because it couldn't really transmit its information back without giving away its position.
But they did transmit in Balance of Terror. The remember, the second officer transmitted the news of their glory to the Emperor, and he got reduced in rank because of it.
And I would easily argue that the Romulans have spies in the Federation, so it wouldn't take them very long to just find reports and say, oh, this is from the Enterprise. Because I like the idea there that because the ship was destroyed, the tech never went back, and they never quoted, like, maybe just like the Defiant, they fixed it on the fly because of that team. So maybe the second test run, who had none of that data from that initial engagement, didn't manage to fix it and then abandoned it because, sometimes you can't spend 20 years on the same result if it doesn't work, and then it, lessened in scope.
And it could just be too that they decided that it was the plasma torpedo took up too many resources, was too compromising to the systems or something. That's why that's why they scale back to smaller plasma torpedoes, which are not as powerful by any means.
But then why is it that the later Romulan ships still have to decloak to fire? If I was looking at the devastating power of the original plasma torpedo, and you say it's not practical, it uses too much power, blah, 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 well, then you make a less powerful plasma torpedo that you can fire while you're cloaked.
But that's not, the power requirement isn't the problem with Cloak, and Stuart knows exactly what the problem with that Cloak is. That's an easy win. Stuart, go.
Yes, the quantum signature within the cloaking field, any weapons being fired out of it would smear within this inside and just destroy your own ship. Yeah. The way that Chang got around it, they matched the quantum signature of the photon torpedo, which is a physical weapon. It's a physical shell. They matched the quantum signature of the torpedo each launch to match the cloaking field, so it could be launched out of it. Energy-based weapons wouldn't work being fired out of a quantum field.
So basically, they had to wait for the cloak to lower fully, and the effects to lower, and then at that point they can raise the shields and then use the weapons. It's not about power. I mean, you couldn't probably do the power as well because torpedoes are also independently powered, so that's irrelevant as well.
I would just drop the cloak around the emitter tips. So just a little emitter tip is showing fire.
But I'm sure you can't. Even if shooting from a gun, there's still gases being released around that port. I'm sure they would still.
I know, but I'm just saying there should be a way to cordon off your cloak so you can decloak like a quarter of your one
Scimitar
wing.
did.
With the Scimitar, we actually saw them drop the cloak on part of the ship.
Yeah.
That was a long time in the future, though.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying it's not like it's not possible, right? Yeah. I think it's cheating to whenever you use the word quantum in your explanation in Star Trek.
I know you do.
Well, we didn't. Rick Sternbach did. It's from his book. I mean, it's black and white. It's neatly explained.
But correct me if I'm wrong. But in the episode Balance of Terror, when we first see the cloak, Spock talks about that the idea of a cloak is the selective bending of light, right? So you're basically bending light around the ship. So in doing so, why would this? I could see why that could interfere with energy-based weapons, because your light is energy, and you're just bending the energy field around your ship so that energy can't come into direct contact with your ship. However, why would it have a problem with physical launchers at all? Why wouldn't the Romulans just say, hey, you know what? We put missiles on our ships. We can, completely devastate the Federation and they never know who fired at them.
Because missiles and photons missiles especially are easily destroyed by point defense phasers. Photons not so much, but I think it's just any kind of shooting through any kind of energy barrier with a physical object is going to result in an impact to that barrier.
Well, it's also
going to cause
displacing
damage.
it and change it. And remember, we did in the episode, you can fire a torpedo while cloaked, but there's a risk of it coming back. I mean, that's why they said the very first cloak in the book, they blew themselves up with a torpedo. It wasn't the first time they shot, but it was around that same. So, I mean, if you go into battle, you've got 20 ships, they're all firing while cloaked, and you lose 18 by the end of the battle. Have you won for 12, for 18 torpedoes? Not sure. And you say bending light, but still bending light via the energy fields needed to cloak. That's just his... I mean, he doesn't know how it works exactly because they haven't got the technology. He's just saying what the effect is, not how that effect is being generated.
Yeah. But you put me in charge of the Romulan military for a minute, and so this is what I'd just say, here's where I would go with it, right? Is, okay, we're going to develop a ship that's, first of all, its primary thing is stealth. So we're going to build the whole thing around the cloaking system, that we're going to be able to move the ship around and get to wherever we want completely undetected. Secondary function, you start building massive amounts of missile launchers into the ship, basically like a nuclear missile submarine. But you make it so that because you have a system to where you drop the missiles out of the ship, similar to a mine layer, and then the missiles drift away from the ship for a couple of minutes and then activate and launch towards their target, which would actually be kind of a cool visual effect as well. Yes. And a single missile launching ship like that, getting the drop could take out an entire planet very quickly.
And on that note, and possible future tech for the Romulans, because of Sub-Commander Anti-Trekker being in charge of the Romulan military, I think we'll call this one a wrap.
Although just one very, very, very brief, we sort of do that in the Romulan War fan film, which I'm doing VFX for. So shout out for Mark Nicoredo's Romulan War. Go check it out.
Nice tie-in. That's a good segue.
I do so many blowy-uppy things.
If only the fan films were canon.
Well, my one's for sure.
Anyway, thank you for joining us, Anti-Trekker. It's always fun chatting with you, and great discussions come about as a result. So
always a pleasure.
I do think we actually came to a consensus there with our half retcon idea, and so that ended up quite well. We had a side discussion, which was great. So yay us! Woo!
So anyway, guys, click the like button, subscribe. Don't forget to click the notification icon.
Both channels.
Yes,
yes. Subscribe to Anti-Trekker as well. He's got some great videos. He's a good guy. Trust me.
And I really need the subs, guys. Come on, I'm broke.
Yeah, so anyway, put your comments down below. Did you enjoy this conversation? Would you like to see more of them? And go check out Anti-Trekkers. He's got some great videos as well.
So until next time, guys. Bye.
Bye, everybody.